The Crimson Nexus arena floated in the darkness of space like a jewel made of metal and lights. Inside, thousands of aliens from hundreds of different worlds sat in their seats, waiting for the fight to begin. The air buzzed with excitement and the sound of strange languages mixing together. Some aliens had scales, others had fur, and some looked like they were made of pure energy. But they all had one thing in common today. They were all here to watch their champion destroy another challenger. Hyun-woo stood in the waiting chamber, looking through the transparent wall at the massive arena. He was 28 years old, with short black hair and calm dark eyes. He wore simple combat clothes that looked plain compared to the fancy armor other warriors used. His hands were wrapped in basic tape, and he carried no weapons. He didn't need any. Next to him stood Tae-sung, his mentor and former commander. The older man had gray hair at his temples and scars on his weathered face. He had trained Hyun-woo for 5 years, pushing him harder than any other student. Now he watched his pupil with quiet pride. "They think this will be easy," Tae-sung said, nodding toward the crowd. "Look at them. They're laughing already." Hyun-woo said nothing. He simply watched and listened. Through the walls, he could hear the aliens placing bets. The sounds of their amusement echoed in the corridors. They spoke in languages he didn't understand, but their meaning was clear. They thought Earth had sent a fool to die. In the diplomatic viewing box high above the arena floor, Ju-won sat with her hands folded in her lap. She was Earth's ambassador to the Galaxy Council, a woman of 40 with sharp intelligence in her eyes. Around her, alien diplomats whispered and pointed at the human section. Some tried to hide their smiles. Others didn't bother. A tall alien with blue skin leaned toward her. His name was something she couldn't pronounce, but he represented the Valkyrie Empire. "Ambassador Ji-won," he said in perfect Earth language. "It's not too late to withdraw your champion. We would understand. No shame in recognizing your limits." Ji-won smiled politely, but her eyes were cold. "We don't withdraw. That's not our way." The alien laughed, a sound like grinding rocks. "Very well. At least the match will be quick. Less suffering for your warrior that way." On the other side of the arena, in chambers decorated with gold and precious metals, Crothax prepared for battle. He was 3 meters tall, covered in thick scales that looked like natural armor. His arms were as thick as tree trunks, and his claws could tear through steel. He had been the arena champion for 3 cycles, defeating every challenger sent against him. 47 warriors had tried to take his title. 47 had failed. His handlers rubbed oils into his scales and checked his claws. But Crothax barely noticed them. He was thinking about the human. He had seen images of Earth's champion, small, weak-looking, soft skin with no armor or natural weapons. It would be over in seconds. "This is an insult," Crothax said to his chief handler. "They send me prey, not a warrior." "The council demands all species have their chance," the handler replied. "After you defeat this human, the Valkyrie will gain 3 more seats in the council. Just do what you always do." Crothax grinned, showing rows of sharp teeth. "I will make it quick. The human deserves that much mercy." Back in the waiting chamber, a young woman entered carrying a data tablet. Her name was Daein, and she was Hyun-woo's communications officer. Her job was to monitor what the galaxy was saying about Earth and the match. "You need to see this," she said, her voice tight with anger. She showed him the tablet. On the screen, galactic news networks were covering the upcoming match. But it wasn't serious coverage. They treated it like a comedy show. One channel showed Hyun-woo's image next to Crothax's, comparing their sizes. The text below read, "Earth's Death Wish, Human Challenges Valkyrie Champion." Another channel had a countdown timer with the title, "How long will he last?" The longest estimate was 2 minutes. Tae-sung took the tablet and tossed it aside. "Don't watch that garbage. Focus on what matters." Hyun-woo nodded. He had expected this. Earth had been trying to join the Galaxy Council for 50 years. Every time they were denied. The other species looked at humans and saw weakness. They saw a species with no natural armor, no claws, no venom, no telepathy, just soft skin and fragile bones, What they didn't see was what that soft skin and those bones could endure. Another woman entered the chamber. Sujin was a xenobiologist, someone who studied alien life. She had spent months analyzing the Valkyrie species, learning everything about how they fought and what made them strong. "Final briefing," she said, pulling up holographic images of Crothax. The Valkyrie evolved on a world with half Earth's gravity. Their strength comes from their size and natural armor, but their bones are less dense than ours. They rely on overwhelming their opponents quickly. "Weaknesses?" Taesung asked. "Stamina. They're built for explosive power, not endurance, and their joints are vulnerable beneath the scales. Here, here, and here." She pointed at the knees, elbows, and neck. Hyun-woo studied the images carefully, memorizing every detail. He had fought opponents bigger than him before. Size meant nothing if you knew where to strike. A loud tone rang through the chamber. It was time. Taesung placed a hand on Hyun-woo's shoulder. "Remember your training? Remember where you come from. You were forged in fire." He was not. Hyun-woo met his mentor's eyes and nodded once. Then he walked toward the entrance tunnel. As he moved through the corridor toward the arena, he passed other waiting chambers. Through the windows he saw aliens from other species watching him. Some looked curious. Most looked amused. One group was actually laughing, pointing at him as he passed. Hyun-woo didn't react. He had learned long ago that words and laughter meant nothing. Only action mattered. The tunnel opened ahead of him, leading to the arena floor. Beyond it, he could hear the roar of the crowd. Thousands of voices, all waiting to see him fall. The sound washed over him like a wave, but he walked forward with steady steps. In the diplomatic box, Jaewon gripped the armrests of her chair. Next to her, Yoon held her breath. Both women knew what was at stake. This wasn't just about one fight. It was about Earth's future among the stars. The announcer's voice boomed across the arena in multiple languages. And now, the challenger. From the planet Earth in the Sol system, the human warrior Hyun-woo. The crowd erupted in sound. But it wasn't cheers. It was laughter mixed with mocking calls. Hyun-woo stepped out onto the arena floor, and the lights hit him from all directions. He was so small compared to the massive space around him. One human. Standing alone before thousands of aliens who thought he had no chance, he walked to the center of the arena and waited. His face showed no fear, no anger, no doubt. Just calm focus. On the opposite side, another tunnel opened. The crowd's laughter turned to cheers as Crothax emerged. The Valkyrie champion raised his arms and roared, and the sound shook the air itself. Hyun-woo stood perfectly still and watched his opponent approach. The galaxy thought this would be a slaughter. Maybe they were right. But they had made one critical mistake. They had forgotten to ask what kind of world produces a warrior like Hyun-woo. They had forgotten to wonder what it takes to survive on Earth. And now, in the center of this arena, they were about to learn the answer, 3 days before the match. Hyun-woo trained in the human section of the station. The room was small compared to the training facilities other species used, but it had everything he needed. Most importantly, it had gravity controls. While the rest of the station used standard galactic gravity, which was comfortable for most species, Hyun-woo trained in Earth gravity. Sujin watched from the observation window as he moved through his exercises. She had seen him train before, but it still impressed her every time. He moved with perfect economy of motion, never wasting energy. Each punch, each kick, each movement was precise and controlled. "How does it feel?" she asked through the intercom. "Heavy," Hyun-woo replied, not breaking his rhythm. "Like home." Outside the training room, a group of alien observers had gathered. Word had spread that the human champion was preparing, and they came to watch out of curiosity. What they saw confused them. "Why is he training in such high gravity?" one asked. "It will tire him out before the match." "Maybe humans don't understand proper training," another suggested. "They're a young species, inexperienced." A third alien tried to enter the training room to introduce himself, but when the door opened and Earth's gravity hit him, his legs buckled. He retreated quickly, embarrassed. The other observers laughed nervously. None of them tried to enter after that dot inside. Taesung joined Hyun-woo on the training floor. Despite his age, the older man moved with the grace of a lifetime warrior. They sparred slowly at first, then faster, their movements becoming a blur of strikes and counters. "The Valkyrie will come at you hard and fast," Taesung said between exchanges. "He'll try to end it immediately." "Let him," Hyun-woo replied, blocking a strike. "Aggression makes patterns. Patterns make weaknesses." "Good. Remember, this isn't about matching his strength. It's about using his strength against him." They continued for another hour until both were covered in sweat. When they finished, Taesung looked at his student with satisfaction. "You're ready?" "You've always been ready." In the diplomatic section of the station, Ji-won sat through another council meeting. The topic wasn't the upcoming match, but it might as well have been. Every species representative who spoke found ways to mention it, usually with thinly veiled insults toward Earth. "We must consider the consequences of allowing unprepared species into the council," one ambassador said. "The arena match will demonstrate why proper caution is necessary." "Earth has shown remarkable advancement," another added with false sympathy. "But advancement takes time. Perhaps in another century or two, they will be ready for council responsibilities." One listened patiently, her face revealing nothing. She had been a diplomat for 20 years. She knew how to control her emotions. But inside she was furious. These beings spoke of Earth like it was a child's science project, something amusing but ultimately insignificant. When it was her turn to speak, she stood calmly. "Earth appreciates the Council's concern. We look forward to demonstrating our capabilities in the arena." No further comment. She sat down, ignoring the whispers that followed. Dayun, sitting beside her, leaned close. "They're underestimating us on purpose. They want us to withdraw?" "I know," Ji-won replied quietly. "Let them underestimate. Hyun-woo will give them the answer we cannot say with words." That evening, the galactic news networks increased their coverage. One popular show called Arena Predictions brought in expert analysts to discuss the match. All of them agreed on the outcome. "The human has no chance," the first expert said. He was a former arena champion himself, from a species known for their combat skills. "I've reviewed footage of human physical capabilities. They're simply not built for this kind of fight." "The question isn't if Crothax will win," the second expert added. "The question is how long he'll make it last. For entertainment value, I hope at least 1 minute." The third expert pulled up statistics. In arena history, the average match length is 8 minutes. "I predict this match will last 30 seconds. Possibly less." Yun watched the broadcast in her quarters, her anger growing with each dismissive comment. She wanted to scream at the screen to tell them they were wrong, but she had no proof yet. Only faith in Hyun-woo and what she knew about Earth. She switched channels, finding dozens of similar programs, all saying the same thing. Humans were weak. Humans were soft. Humans had no business in the arena. Some shows were even taking bets on exactly how Crothax would win. Would he use his claws? His tail? Just his fists? Unable to watch anymore, she turned off the screen and went to find Hyun-woo. She found him in the observation deck, looking out at the stars. Earth was visible in the distance, a small blue dot among the darkness. He stood perfectly still, his hands behind his back, his face peaceful. "Does it bother you?" Dayun asked, joining him at the window. "What they're saying?" "No," Hyun-woo replied simply. "Words are just air. They mean nothing. But they think you're going to die. Many people have thought that before. I'm still here." They looked at him carefully. He wasn't boasting or trying to sound tough. He was simply stating a fact. She had read his military record. She knew what he had survived. Combat in deserts where the heat could kill in hours. Missions in Arctic zones where exposed skin froze in seconds. Urban warfare in ruins so dangerous that most soldiers refused to enter. "Tell me something," she said. "Why did you volunteer for this?" "You could have said no." Hyun-woo was quiet for a moment, still looking at Earth. Because someone has to show them what we are. Not tell them, show them. They think we're weak because they've never seen what Earth produces. They will learn. The next day, representatives from the Valkyrie Empire visited the human quarters. They were led by a tall female with dark red scales and cold eyes. She introduced herself as a senior advisor to the Valkyrie Council. "We come with a generous offer," she said to Jawan. "Withdraw your champion, and the Valkyrie will sponsor Earth's Council application. We will speak in your favor. You will gain membership within the year." One studied the alien carefully. "And what do you want in return?" "Your acknowledgement that some species are better suited for certain roles. The Valkyrie maintain order in this galaxy. Earth would benefit from accepting this reality." "You mean you want us to submit before the fight even begins?" "We prefer the word acknowledge. Why send your warrior to certain defeat? Accept our offer. Save face. Everyone benefits." Ji-1 stood, her eyes hard. "Earth didn't come to this station to surrender. We came to prove ourselves." "The answer is no." The Valkyrie advisor's expression didn't change, but her scales darkened slightly. "A pity. Your pride will cost you dearly. The galaxy will watch your champion fall, and Earth will be remembered as the species too foolish to know its limitations." After the Valkyrie left, Taesung entered the room. He had been listening from the next chamber. "They're scared," he said. "Scared?" Daeun looked confused. "Did you hear what she said?" "I heard what she didn't say." "They wouldn't offer us anything if they were confident." "Something worries them." Gu-1 nodded slowly. "They've studied Hyun-woo. They've seen him train. And they can't figure out how to beat him quickly and cleanly." "Which means," Taesung continued, "they know this won't be as easy as they're pretending. They want us to quit because they're not sure they'll win." The realization settled over the room. For the first time since arriving at the station, the three of them allowed themselves to hope. That night, Hyun-woo returned to the training room one final time. He didn't practice fighting. Instead, he sat in meditation, his breathing slow and steady. He had learned this technique years ago, a way to center his mind and prepare for battle. Taesung entered quietly and sat across from him. For a long time, neither man spoke. They simply sat in comfortable silence, teacher and student preparing for what was to come. Finally, Taesung spoke. "Remember where you come from. Earth is not a gentle world. Our planet has challenged humanity since the first humans stood upright. Extreme temperatures, deadly predators, diseases, natural disasters. Every generation of humans has survived something that should have killed them." "I remember," Hyun-woo said. "These aliens evolved on easier worlds. Lighter gravity. Fewer challenges. They think they're strong, and by their standards they are. But they've never faced someone forged by Earth." Hyun-woo opened his eyes and looked at his mentor. "Tomorrow they learn." "Tomorrow," Taesung agreed. "The galaxy learns that humanity doesn't break easily." The final hours before the match passed slowly. Hyun-woo slept deeply and woke refreshed. He ate a simple meal and dressed in his combat clothes. He checked his hand wraps and stretched his muscles. Every movement was part of a ritual he had performed hundreds of times before. When the call came that it was time, he was ready. As he walked toward the arena entrance, he passed Ji-1 and Daeun. Both women looked at him with expressions mixing hope and fear. "Bring us home," Ji-1 said simply. Hyun-woo nodded once and continued walking. Behind him, he heard Taesung's final words, "Show them hell." The roar of the crowd hit Hyun-woo like a physical force as he stepped onto the arena floor. 100,000 aliens from across the galaxy filled the massive stadium, their voices creating a wall of sound that echoed off the metal walls. Above him, huge screens showed his face, magnified 1,000 times. He looked small on those screens, fragile, human. The arena floor was circular, nearly 200 meters across, with a surface that looked like polished stone. The lighting was bright and even, leaving no shadows to hide in. This was a place designed for pure combat, where skill and strength were the only things that mattered. Hyun-woo walked to the center of the arena, his steps steady and calm. The crowd's noise washed over him, but he didn't hear it. His mind was focused inward, on his breathing, on his body, on the fight ahead. Everything else was just background dot in the diplomatic viewing box. Guwon sat perfectly still, her hands gripping the armrest so tightly her knuckles were white. Around her, alien ambassadors chatted casually, some laughing at jokes she couldn't hear. They had already dismissed this match as entertainment. Nothing more. Diyun sat beside her, a recording device in her lap. She was documenting everything. Whatever happened today would be part of Earth's history forever. She only hoped it would be a history they could be proud of. A trumpet-like sound rang out across the arena, and the crowd noise dropped to an excited murmur. The announcer's voice boomed in multiple languages simultaneously. Translated by Technology Haiyan Wu didn't fully understand. Citizens of the Galaxy Council, honored guests and beings from across the stars. Today we witness a challenge for arena supremacy. The champion, undefeated in 47 consecutive matches, Crothax of the Velkari Empire. The opposite tunnel opened, and Crothax emerged into the light. The crowd exploded into cheers. The Velkari champion raised his massive arms, his scales gleaming under the arena lights. He was enormous, easily twice Haiyan Wu's height and probably 4 times his weight. His muscles rippled beneath his natural armor, and his claws caught the light like polished knives. Crothax walked to the center of the arena, each of his steps heavy enough to feel through the floor. When he reached the middle, he turned in a slow circle, acknowledging the crowd's worship. They loved him. He was their champion, their symbol of strength and dominance. Finally, he turned to face Haiyan Wu. For a moment, the two warriors simply looked at each other. Crothax's eyes showed confidence, bordering on arrogance. He had seen Haiyan Wu's size and made his judgment. This would be quick. And the challenger, the announcer continued, from the planet Earth, representing the human species in their first arena challenge, Haiyan Wu. The crowd's response was completely different. Some laughed. Others made sounds that might have been their species' version of amusement. A few actually booed. The contrast between Haiyan Wu and Crothax was obvious to everyone. The human looked like a child standing before a giant. Haiyan Wu didn't react to the crowd's mockery. He simply stood in his fighting stance, weight balanced, hands ready, eyes focused on his opponent. A crystalline being floated down from above, its body refracting light into rainbow patterns. This was Arbitrator Quellen, the referee who would ensure fair combat. Its voice was strange, like wind chimes in a storm. "The rules are ancient and simple," Quellen announced. "No weapons. No outside interference. The match continues until one warrior submits or can no longer fight. Death is not required, but it is permitted. Do both warriors understand?" "Yes," Crothax growled, his voice deep and rumbling. "Yes," Haiyan Wu said quietly, "then take your positions." The two warriors moved apart, creating distance between them. The arena fell silent, thousands of beings holding their breath in anticipation. The massive screens showed both fighters side by side, emphasizing the difference in their sizes. In the viewing box, Taesung had joined Ru Wan and Dayun. The old warrior sat with his arms crossed, his face unreadable. But Ji-won could see the tension in his shoulders. Even he was nervous. Quellen raised one crystalline arm. "Begin." The crowd erupted into noise again, but it was instantly drowned out by something louder. Crothax roared, a sound so powerful it made the air vibrate and charged. His massive body moved with shocking speed, closing the distance between them in seconds. His right arm swung in a devastating arc, claws extended, aimed at Haiyan Wu's head. It was the same opening move Crothax used in every fight. Overwhelming force from the first second. End it before it truly began. Haiyan Wu moved. He didn't step back. He didn't try to block. He shifted his weight and slipped to the side, and Crothax's attack hit nothing but air. The Velkari's momentum carried him forward several steps before he could stop. The crowd's cheering faltered slightly. That wasn't supposed to happen. Crothax spun, faster than something his size should be able to turn, and attacked again. His left claw came low, aimed at Haiyan Wu's legs. Then his right came high, aimed at the torso. Then his tail whipped around, trying to sweep the human's feet. Hyun-woo avoided all three attacks. He moved with minimal effort, never taking his eyes off Crothax, reading the champion's movements like words on a page. Each dodge was precise, calculated, wasting no energy. The crowd grew quieter. This wasn't going the way they expected. Crothax attacked again and again, each strike powerful enough to kill most beings instantly. But none of them connected. Hyun-woo flowed around them like water. His smaller size and lower center of gravity giving him an advantage the Valkyrie couldn't match. "He's too fast," an alien commentator said, surprise evident in his voice. "The human is too fast." "Impossible," another replied. "Humans have average speed at best. This must be some trick." But it wasn't a trick. It was training. Hyun-woo had spent his entire adult life learning to fight opponents stronger than himself. Size meant nothing if you couldn't land a hit. Crothax stopped his assault, breathing harder now. His eyes showed confusion and the first hint of concern. This small creature shouldn't be able to avoid him. Yet it was. "Stand still and fight." Crothax roared. Hyun-woo didn't reply. Words were wasted breath. The Valkyrie changed tactics. Instead of wild attacks, he became more careful, more methodical. He circled Hyun-woo slowly, looking for an opening. His years of experience told him to be patient, to wait for the human to make a mistake, but Hyun-woo had been trained by Taesung. And Taesung's first lesson had been, never attack first unless necessary. Let the enemy commit. Let them create the opening. The two warriors circled each other, and the crowd grew restless. They wanted action, not this careful dance. Some started to boo, frustrated by the lack of violence. Then Crothax lunged, putting everything into a straight charge. His arms spread wide, trying to grab Hyun-woo and crush him in a bear hug. It was a devastating move that had defeated many champions. Hyun-woo waited until the last possible second, then dropped low and spun. Crothax's arms closed on empty space, and as the Valkyrie's momentum carried him forward, Hyun-woo struck. His fist hit Crothax's knee joint, exactly where Soo-jin had identified a weakness. The blow was precise and powerful, driven by muscles that had trained in Earth's crushing gravity. The sound of impact echoed across the arena. Crothax stumbled, his leg buckling slightly. It wasn't a devastating blow, not yet. But it was the first real hit of the match. And it hadn't come from the champion. The crowd fell completely silent. Crothax recovered quickly, turning to face Hyun-woo with new respect in his eyes. This human had hurt him. Not much, but enough to feel. Enough to matter. "So you can strike," Crothax said. "Good, a real fight is more satisfying than killing prey." He attacked again, but now his strategy had changed. He was taking the human seriously. His strikes were more controlled, more dangerous. He used his reach advantage, keeping Hyun-woo at a distance where those smaller arms couldn't reach him, but Hyun-woo had trained for this too. He closed the distance whenever possible, working inside Crothax's longer reach. He struck the same knee joint twice more, each blow carefully placed. He was methodically breaking down the champion's mobility. They exchanged blows for the first time. Crothax's fist caught Hyun-woo's shoulder, and the human felt the massive power behind it. His bones creaked, and pain shot through his body. But he had been hit before. Pain was just information. In return, Hyun-woo struck Crothax's elbow joint. Then his other knee. Each hit was precise, targeting the weak points Soo-jin had identified. The crowd was no longer laughing. They watched in growing disbelief as the small human not only survived, but fought back effectively. This wasn't supposed to be possible. In the viewing box, Ji-won allowed herself a small smile. Daein was recording everything, tears of pride in her eyes. And Taesung sat forward, watching his student with the focus of a man seeing his life's work validated. Crothax roared again, but this time it wasn't a roar of confidence. It was frustration mixed with the first taste of fear. He lunged forward with both arms, trying to trap Hyun-woo against the arena wall. Hyun-woo didn't retreat. Instead, he did something Crothax didn't expect. He moved forward inside the Valkyrie's guard and drove his knee up into the champion's midsection. The blow hit with shocking force. and Crothax's breath exploded from his lungs. For the first time in 3 cycles, the undefeated champion staggered backward. The silence in the arena was absolute. 100,000 beings stared in stunned disbelief, and then Haiyan Wu spoke, his voice carrying clearly in the quiet. "Your turn is over." The words were simple. The meaning was clear. The fight had changed, and the galaxy was about to learn what it meant to challenge a warrior from Earth. The arena remained frozen in shocked silence for 3 heartbeats. Then chaos erupted. The crowd exploded into confused noise, thousands of voices speaking at once in hundreds of languages. The massive screens showed Crothax's face, and for the first time in his career, the champion looked uncertain. Haiyan Wu didn't wait for him to recover. He pressed forward, his movements fluid and controlled. Every lesson Tatsung had taught him came back like muscle memory. Don't give a bigger opponent time to think. Don't let them reset. Keep the pressure constant. He struck Crothax's injured knee again, and this time the Valkyrie actually cried out in pain. The leg buckled more severely, and Crothax dropped to one knee. The crowd gasped. Their champion was kneeling, impossible, but Crothax was a warrior who had won 47 consecutive fights. He hadn't survived this long without learning to adapt. He swung his tail in a wide arc, faster than before, catching Haiyan Wu by surprise. The heavy appendage hit the human's legs and swept them out from under him. Haiyan Wu hit the arena floor hard, the impact driving the air from his lungs. Before he could recover, Crothax was on him, one massive hand reaching for his throat. The Valkyrie's eyes burned with renewed fury. He would end this now, end this embarrassment, but Haiyan Wu had trained for ground fighting too. As Crothax's hand closed on his throat, he grabbed the Valkyrie's arm and twisted, using the champion's own momentum against him. His legs came up, wrapping around Crothax's extended arm, and he pulled the elbow joint backward with controlled force. Crothax roared and pulled away, but not before Haiyan Wu's technique had done its work. The elbow was damaged now, adding to the injured knee. 2 of the champion's major joints were compromised. Both warriors got to their feet, breathing hard. Crothax favored his right leg now, and his left arm hung slightly lower than before. Haiyan Wu's throat was bruised, and his shoulder throbbed where Crothax had hit him earlier. But his eyes remained focused and calm. In the viewing box, the alien ambassadors were no longer chatting casually. They sat forward in their seats, watching with genuine interest and growing concern. The Valkyrie delegation looked furious, their scales darkening with emotion. "This is impossible," one Valkyrie ambassador hissed. "Humans are weak. Everyone knows this." One turned to face him, her expression neutral. "Perhaps you should have studied us more carefully before making assumptions." Down on the arena floor, the fight entered a new phase. Both warriors were hurt now, both bleeding from minor wounds. But the nature of the fight had fundamentally changed. Crothax no longer saw Haiyan Wu as prey. He saw him as a genuine threat. The Valkyrie changed his entire approach. He stopped trying to overpower the human and instead used his experience. He feinted left, then struck right. He used his tail more defensively, keeping Haiyan Wu at a distance. He was fighting smart now, fighting to win rather than to dominate, and Haiyan Wu adapted instantly. This was what Taesung had prepared him for. An opponent who adjusted, who learned, who became more dangerous as the fight progressed. He studied Crothax's new patterns, looking for the weaknesses that always existed in every style. They exchanged blows again, more carefully now. Crothax's fist caught Haiyan Wu's ribs, and the human felt something crack. Pain lanced through his side with every breath. But he pushed it aside. Pain was temporary. Losing was permanent. He returned the favor with a devastating kick to Crothax's already injured knee. The joint buckled completely this time, and the Valkyrie fell to one knee again. Haiyan Wu moved in fast, ready to press his advantage, but Crothax was desperate now, and desperate opponents were the most dangerous. He lashed out with both hands, not trying for technique but raw power. One hand caught Haiyan Wu's chest and sent him flying backward. The human hit the arena floor and rolled, barely avoiding the champion's follow-up strike that would have crushed his skull. The crowd was completely invested now. The earlier laughter and mockery had vanished. They were watching two elite warriors pushing each other to their limits. Some aliens had started to cheer for Hyun-woo, impressed by his resilience and skill across the galaxy. On ships and stations and planets, beings watched the live broadcast with growing amazement. The betting markets had crashed completely, algorithms unable to process the impossible data they were receiving. News networks scrambled to bring in new experts who might explain what they were seeing. In one command center, a Valkyrie general watched with cold calculation. He turned to his aide. "Get me all available information on human physiology. I want to know everything about their homeworld. Everything." "Yes, General," the aide replied, already typing frantically. What he found would shock him. Earth's gravity was more than double what the Valkyrie evolved in. Earth's atmosphere had oxygen levels that would poison many species. Earth's temperature ranges would kill most beings. Earth was, by every measure, a death world. And humans had not only survived there, but thrived. Back in the arena, both warriors were nearing their limits. Krothax's knee was barely functional, and his left arm was almost useless. Hyun-woo's ribs were cracked, his throat was bruised, and his shoulder was screaming with pain. But neither would quit. Neither could quit. Krothax made his final gambit. With a roar that shook the arena, he entered what the Valkyrie called the Killing Fury. His eyes changed color, becoming completely black. His muscles swelled, drawing on reserves of strength that would burn out his body afterward. He became a berserker, feeling no pain, knowing no fear, seeking only to destroy. The crowd recognized what was happening and went wild. The Killing Fury had never failed to end a match. No opponent had ever survived it. Krothax charged with impossible speed for someone with his injuries. His attacks became a storm of violence, each strike powerful enough to shatter stone. He was no longer thinking, just acting on pure combat instinct, and that was exactly what Hyun-woo had been waiting for. Taesun had taught him that berserker rages, while terrifying, created predictable patterns. The body could only move in certain ways at high speed. Physics limited even fury. And predictable patterns meant exploitable weaknesses. Hyun-woo stopped trying to dodge every attack. Instead, he read Krothax's movements and positioned himself exactly where he needed to be. He took hits, accepting the pain. Because it put him in position for the counter-strikes that mattered, he struck Krothax's knee joint. One final time with everything he had left. The joint didn't just buckle this time. It broke. Krothax's roar changed from fury to agony. But the berserker rage kept him fighting even on one leg. Hyun-woo moved inside the Valkyrie's guard for the last time. He struck the elbow joint, then the other knee, then drove his fist into the champion's throat with controlled precision. Not enough to kill, but enough to stun. Krothax staggered, his body finally betraying him. The Killing Fury drained away, leaving only exhaustion and pain. He tried to stay standing through pure willpower, but his damaged legs wouldn't support him anymore. He fell. The sound of the champion hitting the arena floor seemed impossibly loud in the sudden quiet. Krothax tried to rise, his arms shaking with effort, but his body had nothing left to give. He collapsed fully, unable to continue. Hyun-woo stood over him, breathing hard, bleeding from a dozen minor wounds. He looked down at the fallen champion, and for a moment, the entire galaxy held its breath. Then Hyun-woo did something that shocked everyone even more than his victory. He extended his hand to Krothax. The Valkyrie champion looked at the offered hand with confusion, then understanding. This human wasn't gloating. He was showing respect to a fallen warrior. Krothax reached up with his less injured arm and gripped Hyun-woo's hand. The human helped pull him to a sitting position, an act of kindness that seemed impossible after such a brutal fight. "You fought with honor?" Hyun-woo said quietly, only loud enough for Krothax to hear. "As did you," Krothax replied, his voice rough with pain and respect. "I underestimated you. We all did." Arbitrator Quellen floated down to the arena floor, its crystalline body pulsing with light. Its voice rang out across the arena, translated into 1,000 languages simultaneously. "The challenger has won. The match is concluded. Hyun-woo of Earth is the new arena champion." For 3 full seconds, nothing happened. 100,000 beings sat in absolute stunned silence, unable to process what they had witnessed. Then the arena exploded with sound. Cheers, screams, shocked exclamations in countless languages. Some beings were celebrating, others were protesting, but everyone was reacting. The impossible had happened. A human had defeated the Valkyrie champion. In the viewing box, Ji-won stood slowly, tears streaming down her face. Dae-yun was crying too, clutching her recording device. And Tae-sung sat with his eyes closed, a smile of deep satisfaction on his weathered face. His student had done it? More than that, he had proven everything Tae-sung had always known about humanity's potential. The massive screen showed Hyun-woo's face, bloodied but calm. And across the galaxy, on 1,000 worlds and 1,000,000 ships, beings looked at that face and saw something they had never seen before. They saw humanity. Not as prey, not as weaklings, but as warriors who had earned their place among the stars. The message was clear and undeniable. Earth had arrived. The medical teams arrived within minutes, hovering anti-gravity stretchers ready for both warriors. Crothax refused help at first, determined to leave the arena on his own feet, but his broken knee made that impossible. He finally accepted the stretcher with visible frustration, his eyes never leaving Hyun-woo as he was carried away. Hyun-woo also refused the stretcher. His ribs were cracked and his body was covered in bruises, but he could walk. He would walk. He limped across the arena floor toward the exit tunnel, each step painful but necessary. Behind him, the crowd continued to roar, their shock turning into excited discussion about what they had witnessed. Tae-sung met him at the tunnel entrance. The old warrior said nothing, just placed a hand on Hyun-woo's shoulder and nodded once. That single gesture carried more meaning than any words could express: pride, satisfaction, vindication. "The medical bay is waiting," Tae-sung said. "Don't be stubborn. Let them check you." For once, Hyun-woo didn't argue. The adrenaline was fading now, and the pain was becoming harder to ignore. He allowed Tae-sung to support him as they walked through the corridors toward the human medical facilities. In the diplomatic viewing box, chaos had erupted. Alien ambassadors crowded around Ji-won, some congratulating her, others demanding immediate meetings, still others looking stunned and uncertain. The Valkyrie delegation had vanished immediately after the match ended, presumably to report this disaster to their homeworld. "Ambassador Ji-won," one elderly alien said, pushing through the crowd. "The Council Premier requests your immediate presence. This outcome requires urgent discussion." "Of course," Ji-won replied calmly, though her heart was racing. "Give me 1 hour to check on our champion, then I will attend any meeting the Council requires." The alien looked like he wanted to protest, but thought better of it. 1 hour, he agreed, then disappeared into the crowd. Dae-yun grabbed Ji-won's arm. "We did it. We actually did it." "Hyun-woo did it," the one corrected. "We just gave him the opportunity. Come on, let's make sure he's all right." They found him in the medical bay, being examined by both human and alien doctors who looked fascinated by his physiology. Sujin was there too, taking notes and asking questions about his bone density, muscle fiber composition, and recovery capabilities. 3 cracked ribs, severe bruising across 70% of his body, and a partially torn ligament in his left shoulder, the human doctor reported. But nothing permanent. With proper treatment, he'll be fully recovered in 6 weeks. 6 weeks? An alien doctor said, incredulous. That level of damage would take most species 6 months to heal, if they survived at all. Sujin smiled. Different gravity means different evolution. Human bones and tissues are much denser than yours. What seems like severe damage to you is moderate damage to us. The alien doctor shook his head in amazement and returned to his examination. Hyun-woo sat quietly through all of this, letting them work. He caught Ji-won's eye and gave a small nod. Mission accomplished. Within hours, the news had spread across the entire galaxy. Every major network led with the story. The footage of the match was analyzed frame by military strategists, combat experts, and xenobiologists. Everyone wanted to understand how this impossible victory had occurred. On Earth, Billions of humans watched the recordings in disbelief and pride. Their species, always looked down upon by the galactic community, had proven themselves in the most public way possible. Celebrations erupted in cities across the planet. The name Haiyan Wu became instantly famous, though the man himself would have preferred to avoid the attention. In the Valkyrie capital, emergency sessions were called. Military commanders reviewed everything they knew about Earth and realized how little that actually was. They had dismissed humanity based on appearance and assumptions. That mistake had cost them dearly. Earth's gravity is 2.3 times our homeworld standard, one analyst reported to the assembled commanders. Humans who can walk normally on their planet would be like super beings on ours. Why didn't we know this? A general demanded. We did know it, the analyst replied quietly. We just didn't understand what it meant. We saw them as weak because they had no natural weapons or armor. We never considered that their environment itself was their greatest challenge. The realization settled over the room like a cold weight. They had poked a sleeping predator, assuming it was prey. 3 days after the match, the Galaxy Council held an emergency session. Every species representative was present, and the tension in the chamber was thick enough to cut. G1 sat in Earth's observer seat, which until now had been positioned in a back corner. Today, that seat had been moved to the main floor, level with the full-member species. Council Premier Hadrath, an ancient being whose species had founded the council millennia ago, called the session to order. His voice was tired but firm. We have witnessed something unprecedented, he began. A species we considered unprepared for council membership has demonstrated capabilities that exceed most current members. This requires us to reconsider many assumptions. The match was a fluke, the Valkyrie ambassador protested, though his voice lacked conviction. One victory proves nothing. One victory proves everything, another ambassador countered. It proves we judged humanity by the wrong standards. It proves our assessment protocols are flawed. The debate raged for hours. Some species wanted to fast-track Earth's membership immediately. Others wanted to study human capabilities more thoroughly first. A few, mostly those with territorial ambitions near Earth space, argued against membership entirely, though their arguments sounded increasingly desperate. Finally, Premier Hadrath raised his hand for silence. A vote will be held. Earth's application for full Galaxy Council membership. All in favor? G1 held her breath. She had expected a close vote, maybe even a failure that would require years of additional diplomacy. The vote was unanimous. Even the Valkyrie ambassador, after a long pause, raised his hand in favor. He had no choice. To vote against now would be to appear petty and fearful. Better to accept the inevitable with grace. Earth is granted full council membership, Hadrath announced. All rights, privileges, and responsibilities effective immediately. Ambassador G1, please approach. One walked to the center of the chamber on shaking legs. Hadrath placed a crystalline badge in her hand, the symbol of full council membership. Welcome to the council, he said simply. May your species bring new strength to our union? G1 bowed respectfully. Earth is honored to serve alongside all member species. We look forward to contributing to galactic peace and prosperity. As she returned to her seat, now officially a full member's seat, she allowed herself a moment of emotion. 50 years. 50 years of rejected applications, dismissive meetings, and patient diplomacy. All of it had led to this moment. Back on the medical station, Haiyan Wu received visitors. First came Crothax, limping on a temporary brace for his broken knee. The Valkyrie champion looked different now, humbler, more thoughtful. I came to apologize, Crothax said, lowering his head in a gesture of respect. I treated you as prey when you were a fellow warrior. That was dishonorable. You fought with everything you had, Haiyan Wu replied. That's all any warrior can do. You have nothing to apologize for. Still, I underestimated you. We all did. I have a request, if you'll permit it. What request? When I heal, I wish to train with humans. To learn your methods. To understand what made you so formidable. Haiyan Wu considered this, then nodded. When you're healed, Come to Earth, train in our gravity, learn our ways. But I warn you, it won't be easy." Crothax laughed, a sound without his earlier arrogance. "After fighting you, I don't expect easy. I expect to be humbled further. But that's how warriors grow." They clasped hands, former opponents now connected by mutual respect. Other visitors followed. Military representatives from a dozen species, all with similar requests for training exchanges and tactical consultations. Diplomatic envoys bearing gifts and treaty proposals. Scientists wanting to study human physiology and Earth's environment. Han Wu handled them all with the same calm dignity he had shown in the arena. Finally, when all the official visitors had left, Taesung returned. The two men sat in comfortable silence for a while, as was their way. "You know what happens now?" Taesung said eventually. "Everything changes. The galaxy will want to study us, learn from us, maybe even fear us." "I know," Haiyan Wu replied. "That's why I did it. Not for glory, but to give Earth the respect we've always deserved. Mission accomplished then." "The mission never ends." "This was just the beginning." Taesung smiled. "Good answer." Months later, Earth's first full council delegation arrived at the galactic capital. They came in ships that no longer looked primitive to alien eyes. They walked with confidence that came from proven strength. And when they spoke in council chambers, others listened with respect instead of dismissal. The arena still stood, of course. It would host many more matches in the years to come. But something fundamental had changed. The champions who fought there now included humans, and they fought with techniques adapted from Earth's harsh gravity and harsher history. The betting markets had learned their lesson. They never again dismissed a species based on appearance alone. The military academies across the galaxy added new courses on human combat doctrine, studying how a species from a death world approached warfare, and in quiet rooms on 1,000 worlds, leaders looked at maps of the galaxy and reconsidered their expansion plans. That blue planet in the Sol system was no longer a tempting target. It was a warning. Touch Earth at your own risk. Haiyan Wu eventually returned home, slipping away from the fame as quietly as possible. He went back to his military duties, training the next generation of warriors who might be called upon to defend Earth's interests among the stars. But sometimes, on clear nights, he would look up at the stars and remember the arena. Not the pain or the glory, but the moment when the galaxy's laughter turned to silence, then shock, then respect. That moment when humanity stopped being a joke and became a force to be reckoned with. That moment when one human warrior taught the galaxy a lesson it would never forget. Earth had arrived, and the stars would never be the same.